Hello everyone, so nice to have you here. It's gonna be an amazing event. Now, let's get a little bit serious because today's topic is about why some people try really hard and never achieve their fitness goals, and why other people always achieve their fitness goals and make it look easy and effortless. So today we're going to talk about the three main factors that can help you to achieve your fitness goals in 2025. And I want to be from the beginning completely honest with you. If you're not going to be able to make it through this event, I'm afraid to tell you that you're not going to be able to achieve your fitness goals in 2025. So make sure to follow this event and start implementing this knowledge on your fitness journey in 2025. Now you probably wonder, who am I? What's my track record? What have I done to sit here and teach you how you should achieve your fitness goals in 2025? I think it's time for me to present myself. My name is Ahmet and my fitness journey started when I was 9 years old. Back then I was living in Greece. I started looking after activities that I could do. So I tried football, basketball and many other sports, but I didn't really fall in love with any of those sports until one day I was walking at the park and I saw a guy that he was looking exactly like those superheroes I used to see on the comic books. He was really trained, and I went and asked him, how can you be so fit? How is this possible? And he told me, I do rowing. I was what? I didn't even know what rowing is, but luckily he gave me a phone number, and then next day I ended up at the rowing club and I joined the local rowing club. And let me tell you, since then I've done rowing for 18 years now. The first 2 years of my rowing career I started training regularly, and I also did my competition debut after the second year, but that was a total disaster. I finished last. It was a little bit sad, but at the same time I felt really motivated and I really wanted to become better and show both myself and my friends and my family that I'm better than that. So fast forward next year, I competed at the same competition, but this time I took the bronze medal, and that felt insane. I've never had that feeling before. You know, when you work really hard and you get that rewardness back, it was the first time I felt something like that in my life, and that motivated me to work even harder. But next year my family decided to leave Greece. Sweden was a new country for me. I didn't know the language, I didn't know anything about the Swedish culture, so I went on and joined a local club in Stockholm, and everything seemed good in the beginning, but after some days I realized that I didn't have any coach there. I got really worried about my career because I had really high ambitions, and back in Greece we had really good coaches that helped us and guided us in each station. But now in Sweden I didn't have that, so I had to start studying. I had to start watching YouTube videos, listen to podcasts, read books, how to structure your training, what kind of training you should do first of all, and how to prepare for competitions. It was a really hard time for me because I had to learn a new language, do a lot of training, and also learn how to become my own coach. Fast forward, after a lot of new experiences, a lot of training and a lot of new knowledge, I was qualified to represent Sweden on my first international competition ever, the World Rowing Under-23 Championships. Now my first World Championship really humbled me. I was a Swedish champion by that time, but when I went there internationally, I finished on a 24th place. That was not really the result I was looking for. I was hoping for much more. After this failure, I returned back to Sweden, and I was thinking, why did I not do good on this competition? And the answer was simple. You know, when we were at the competition, you could see those big teams from the other countries. They have so many coaches. Every athlete had a coach, and I didn't have nobody there to help me and guide me through the competition. So then I went even harder on learning more about coaching, learning more about structure my training, so I could be more prepared for my next big competition. Now this time I knew that YouTube couldn't cut it for me, and I knew that I have to find more legitimate sources to become even better on structuring my training and coaching myself. So I started to attend seminars, call other coaches from national teams to get more knowledge, and I even went on and I started a 2-year personal trainer education in order to get more knowledge. After 2 years of educating myself and applying this knowledge on my own training, and by the way guys, I just want to make it clear here, you probably might thinking, oh, but this guy was just educating himself and never put time on his own training. But that's not the truth. I was training 2 times per day, around 5 hours per day, so that was not the problem. I was probably doing too much of training. I'm going to get back to that a little bit later. Now back to the story. I was back on the World Championship arena, more prepared and hungry than ever before. After 4 days of hard racing and tough battles out on the water, I managed to take a 13th place. Now, the 13th place was much better than the 24th place, but I still didn't feel really happy. I felt that I had much more potential. So I returned back to Sweden. I called the president of the Swedish Federation and I told him that I really want to have a coach because I'm really ambitious and I really want to get a medal for Sweden at the highest level. He agreed and he brought to my city one of the best coaches in the world, an Italian coach that have coached Olympians and world champions. It was an honor for me to have him as my new coach, and he brought so much knowledge on the table. The fun part is that in only 1 year I improved much more than I did the past 4 years, and that was of course of the training structure. Another interesting thing was that I was doing much less training but improving constantly day by day. And after a really good year of training with him, I was finally ready to compete at the World Rowing Cup in Serbia. But the difference this time was that I was not alone. I had a coach. That I've worked with a couple of months, so I felt much more confident. And on that competition, guys, there were some of the biggest names around the world. I remember it like yesterday. I remember it that during the night it was so rainy and the thunders falling around. It was insane. I thought that the race is gonna get cancelled, but then when I woke up in the morning, it was sunny. The day was beautiful, wonderful for racing. I had my breakfast, took a cup of coffee. I remember I took a shower, I went down to the racing course. When I arrived on the arena, I had a serious talk with my coach. He knew where I was coming from. He knew that I didn't have a coach for many years, and he knew that I was really ambitious and I really wanted to succeed on this competition. So after our chat, he reminded me that I can do it. I have done the work. I'm ready to achieve my biggest rowing result in my career. And just like that, the race was on. I was on the start line. I remember I was nervous. I was one of the favorites on the final. The race got started. I took it easy. I tried to save some energy. When we were halfway, I knew that I need to do the push. I made the push. I was there. I could see that the other guys was getting tired. I was also feeling tired. I was fighting a lot. I was giving everything to get on this medal position, to get one of these top 3 spots in the podium. The concurrence was really hard. I remember the Spanish guy, he was on my left side. He went bananas from the beginning. It was an incredible start he did. But then we catch him halfway, me and Slovenian and the Belgian guy. And then the fight was on all the way to the finish line. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough power to push the Belgian and the Slovenian guy, but I did it. I was third. I couldn't believe it. It took for me like 2 minutes to realize that I finally won my first international medal. I remember like today, I stepped out from my boat. I went up on the podium and I remember the whole Swedish team standing there for me and like cheering for me, taking photos, hugging me. It was amazing. And I was standing there on the podium and I remember that I started seeing pictures in front of me, all this hard work that I put it down, all this studying, all this knowledge, all these hard sessions to just have that medal. It was my dream since I started this journey, so I was so happy. I cannot describe it. I was happy for many days and months afterwards too. And after these days and months, I finally started feeling peace inside of me. I felt that I have proved to everybody that I can do that. I can come literally from nothing and achieve such an incredible result. I can come from a cold country like Sweden that we have ice half of the year and compete against those Spanish and Italian guys and Australian guys that have like wonderful conditions. I felt that I was done with rowing. I felt that I achieved everything that I wanted to achieve. I felt so fulfilled inside of myself. Sure, I knew that I probably had 1 or 2 more years to achieve that gold medal and to be the best in the world, but I also knew that I had also sacrificed a lot of things to get where I got. By now my career has been on for more than 15 years, and during those 15 years, guys, I sacrificed a lot of things to achieve that result. I mean, I sacrificed a lot. No partying, no girlfriends, no junk food, no waste of time. I was super dedicated on my goal, and all my energy was going to become a better rower and become an elite athlete. And by then I felt that I wanted to do something new. I felt that I wanted to develop on all these aspects in my life that I didn't have the time to develop once I was training. I felt that I need to work on the stuff that I didn't have time and didn't prioritize during my rowing career. Then I went on and finished my studies at the university, got a job, but something wasn't feeling right. You know, all this knowledge that I accumulated during these years, I couldn't apply it anymore to myself because I wasn't training on that level. And it was then I decided to step out of my comfort zone and starting to apply this knowledge on other people. And that's how I got started with coaching. And let me tell you, it has been a journey on its own. I mean, we have helped more than 500 people to get in shape, lose some weight, start competing. I mean, last year we had 25 people competing at the World Championships, and this year we're going to have more than 40 people competing at the World Championships in different age categories and not to account all these people that are training with us for fun and to feel better and get in shape. That said, all these lessons that you're going to get through this free event are things that we have learned by coaching more than 500 adults, and also things that I've learned during my long-lasting elite career that you just heard about. With that said, let's get started with the 3 common mistakes that people do when it comes to achieving their fitness goals. So at number 1, we have not setting a goal or setting an unrealistic goal. Now, it doesn't take a lot of brain power to understand that if you don't write down your training goal, you're probably not going to achieve it. Because let's face it, you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. So that's why it's really important to have your goal written down so you can remind yourself what you have to do in order to achieve your goal. Now, the best way of doing that is to put it through a framework that's called SMART goals. I know that you probably have heard of SMART goals, but that's exactly what me and my coach were working on when I was competing internationally, and that a lot of other people do to achieve their goals. For you guys that don't know what SMART goals are, I'm just going to walk you through really quick so you understand what they are and how you can use them. So SMART goals is an acronym. So now let's walk you through what each letter on the word SMART means. So let's get started with the first letter, that is S. S stands for specific. I see that time after time after time that people say, I want to get in shape. But what does it mean, get in shape? So you have to be more specific. For example, I want to get in shape to lift up my grandson. I want to get in shape to run 10 kilometers. I want to get in shape to look comfortable at the beach. Now, do you start feeling that it looks more realistic and it becomes more specific? Now that you have done that, we can move on to the next letter, M. M stands for measurable. So now you have to make sure that your goal is measurable. Let's assume that your goal is to get more comfortable at the beach. And I'm sure that to get that, you probably need to lose some weight or lose some fat. So that could be probably that you lose 5 kilos so you can feel more comfortable when you are at the beach. When you have done that and have a measurable goal, you can move on to the next letter, A. A stands for attractive. That means that the goal you set up, it must be attractive for you and yourself. It must be something that you really want to achieve, not something that your husband or somebody else wants you to achieve. Now that you have written down your goal, then you can ask yourself, is this goal attractive for me? Is this something that I'm willing to put down the time to achieve it? Let's take, for example, the goal losing 5 kilos in order to get more comfortable at the beach. Is it something that you really want to achieve? If the answer is yes, then you're ready to move on to the next letter. And the next letter is R. R stands for realistic. You have to make sure that your goal is realistic. Now, let's stick to the example we had before with getting in shape so you can feel comfortable at the beach. If you put an unrealistic goal, for example, if you put a goal that you want to lose 20 kilos, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're probably going to fail. I mean, that's something I also did. I set it up unrealistic goals, and the only thing that I achieved was that I got sad and unmotivated. Luckily for me, I had this deep desire of getting one of the best in the world. But I see other athletes and everyday people, when they fail with their goals, they get so discouraged and sad that they stop trying, which obviously leads to them never hitting their goals. So guys, please make sure to put realistic goals. That said, let's move on to the next letter, that is T. And T stands for time bound. Now, even if you have done all the steps before right and you don't put a deadline to achieve your goal, you're probably going to fail to do so. So that's why you need to have a deadline, and that's why I love to encourage people to sign up for competition or events, because on that way they have a deadline and they have to do their best until the deadline. That's it. That's what SMART goals are. Now, the last thing I want to mention about goals is to make sure that you break it down in small action steps. After you are setting up your SMART goal, you have to make sure that you break it down in small action steps so you know exactly what to do in order to achieve that big goal. Something that you can also find on this free resource I've done for you. Now, let's move on to the second biggest mistake, that is lack of focus. Now, even if you have set up the perfect goal and break it down in smaller steps, you have to make sure to stay focused. I know that a lot of time work, family, and other things take a lot of focus from you, but make sure that you are focused in order to achieve your goal. Another thing that I often see is that people jump around opportunities. They always think that the grass is greener on the other side, but that's not true. The only thing that keeps you away from achieving your goal is you staying focused and maintaining that consistency. So I cannot stress this enough. It's really important that once you have set up your goal and break it down to smaller steps, that you stay focused and trust the process. And as a matter of fact, focus is equal as important as setting up a goal. You know, you can set up the best and smartest goal, but without having focus, it's going to be really hard for you to achieve that goal. In fact, focus is so important. And with that, my friend, with a goal and a focus, you're going to be able to succeed with your goals? Or are you going to do that? To answer that, I went on and brought an expert, a guy that have taken hundreds of calls with our clients, a guy that knows exactly what people were looking out for exercises and what made them join RowFit. Please welcome Ruben. Ruben, come in.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. So nice to be here. What an amazing event. I mean, we are more than 200 people already to this event. And I actually went ahead, guys, and I watched through all the applications that you did. And it seems like the majority of you are between the ages of 40 and 60. And I have some good news because I've dealt with a lot of people that want to get in shape or that want to change out their workouts in their 40s. All the way up to 60. So that's exactly what I'm going to talk about. Now, what Ahmed said is that if you have focus and if you have a goal, that you can go a long way with just that. What I'm going to talk about is more about the vehicle. So what's the best exercise to get started? Because let's face it, no matter what, if you have a wrong exercise that you are doing in order to get in shape and you do everything right, so you set the right goal, you are super focused, but you just chose an exercise that doesn't really fit your lifestyle, somehow you're not going to enjoy the thing that you are doing. You're not going to enjoy these sessions. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is that I'm going to jump on my computer and I'm going to walk you through the 6 of the most famous exercises out there that people do in order to stay in shape or lose weight, get faster, or whatever the goal is. And I'm going to run them through 6 criteria. And I'm going to tell you exactly why I'm doing that. And you're going to see that in a moment when I jump on my computer. And this knowledge comes, again, like Ahmet mentioned, I've taken hundreds and hundreds of calls with people that want to get in shape or that want to get their training to the next level, that they have been training a long time on their own and they want to just take everything up a notch. So let's jump on my computer and walk you through these 6 common exercises and how they compare to each other throughout these 6 criteria. And hopefully by the end of this exercise, you are going to find out which one works best for you. With that said, let's jump on my computer. Alright guys, so here we are. I jumped on my computer and I'm going to walk you through this exercise. So now the goal of this exercise is to see the pros and cons from the top 6 most popular workouts out there, so you can decide which one works best for you. And also so you can see why some of them probably haven't worked for you in the past. Now let's get started. First of all, I just want to walk you through these 6 criteria which we're going to use to compare them against each other. Now first out, we have entrance barrier, which means how difficult is it to get started with this workout. And this criteria is really important, especially for people starting out, because the last thing you want is that you end up with a workout that takes forever to get good at, so you can actually start to see results. So that's why we're going to compare these exercises when it comes to entrance barrier. Now let's move on to the next criteria, which is training efficiency. Simply put, how much progress can I get for the time I invest into this workout? And this one, guys, is really important for you that are busy. Maybe you have families, maybe you have a lot of work you need to do. So this is really important for a lot of people out there. And this is one of the reasons a lot of people fail, because they choose the wrong workout. They don't really think about. Now, the next one is efficient training. How much time do you need to invest in order to see results from this workout? And this criteria, guys, is really important for the people out there who are busy. I'm sure that a lot of you have families, you have friends, you have child maybe, and you have also other stuff that you rather would like to do than just working out all day. So this is a really big one. Let's move on to the next one. Now the next one is availability and cost. And this is really important, guys, because let's face it, if you choose a workout that you can perform only 30 minutes away from your house, the likelihood that you skip some training is super high. That's why it's really important to have something that's reliable, available, it's close to you, and ideally also it shouldn't cost a lot to perform this workout. Now let's move to the next criteria. Next criteria we have here is strength benefits. Now I don't really need to go into why that's good. I'm sure that a lot of you have heard that if you are about 40 years old and want to slow down your aging, strength exercises or exercise that activates your muscles are really good for you, because it helps you slow down aging and it helps you stay stronger for longer. Now, the next criteria is, does this exercise improve your endurance? Is it easier for you to go on with your everyday life after doing this exercise? So that's also an important aspect of it. Now, let's move to the next criteria, which is the last one, and which is this exercise low impact? And now this is really important for people that have injuries. I know that some of you have trained before and have some injuries, or some of you are at the age that you are afraid that you're going to start getting injuries from training. Or some of you just want to find out the exercise that you can do for the long run. You know, you don't want to find out something that you can do for the next 5 years, but you want to find out something that you can do for the coming 20, 30 years of your life. So that's also a huge aspect of it and a huge criteria that we're going to go through. Now let's go over to this board and compare these different workouts against each other. So I'm going to put up the criteria that we just walked through, and now I'm going to reveal one by one these most popular workouts out there. So first of all, we have traditional gym. This is one exercise that a lot of people do in order to get shape. After that, we have running. We have CrossFit, something that have started to become more and more popular the later years. We have high intensity workouts that you can do at home or maybe at the gym. Then after that, we have swimming, which you can do obviously outside or indoors on a pool. And then we have the one exercise. Now for every single one of them, let's walk them through these 6 criteria and see if this is something for you. So let's start with traditional gym. Now, the entrance barrier for traditional gym is medium at its best, because it's quite difficult actually to learn all these movements. There are so many exercises out there, so many machines, so many exercises with cables. So it's quite a mess to actually learn these exercises and do them properly, so you don't hurt yourself and so you actually get any results from it. Now, if we move on to the next criteria, which is effective training, here is actually where the traditional gym really suffers, because just going around at the gym and lifting some weights, it doesn't really burn you any calories. And that's, by the way, how we're gonna count these criteria. How much calories do you burn per hour? So when you are training at the gym and lifting weights, you are burning around 200 to 400 calories per hour. Let's move on to the next criteria. Now, availability on these criteria, the traditional gym actually gets a quite high point, because there are gyms everywhere, although some of the gyms are quite expensive, so I didn't really put it on the highest tier. I put it on the middle one. Now, when it comes to strength benefits, which is the next criteria, of course, traditional gym gets a really high point there, because that's, after all, what you do. You lift weights and you build your strength. That said, when it comes to cardiovascular benefits, endurance stuff, it gets very low, because that's not what traditional gym is about. It's only about lifting weights. And when it comes to the last criteria, low impact, it's not the best one. As I mentioned in the beginning, especially for beginners, you can hurt yourself, and it's quite tough on your joints if you are on the age about 40. Now, let's move on to the next common workout, which is running. Now, running, when it comes to the entrance barrier, it's really low, because you just need to put your shoes and run. Of course, it needs some technique, but let's be honest, everyone has run when they were a child, so they probably know how to get started. Now, when it comes to efficient training, running is really good, because it activates quite some few muscles on your lower body, and it burns a lot of calories per hour, which is great. Although it's not at the top tier, because it only activates your lower body, and there are exercises out there that burn even more calories per hour. Let's move on to the next criteria, which is availability and cost. Now, here running gets the highest ranking, because it's really available. You can just put your shoes on and you can run everywhere, and it doesn't really cost anything that you have running shoes. Now let's move on to the next one, strength benefit. Here running does really bad, because there are really no strength benefits to running. Let's move on to the next criteria after that, cardiovascular benefits. Now here it's super high, because that's what running really is. It's a cardiovascular exercise. So on this one, it gets a really high point. Now when it comes to low impact, though, it doesn't get such a high point. In fact, it gets the lowest point, because running is really tough on your knees. I'm sure that you have experienced it yourself, or you maybe have heard someone say that when they run, their knees hurt. And that's really true. Running is really tough on knees, because of all these impacts you get when you run, all these jumps you do. That said, let's move on to the next exercise, which is CrossFit. Now, the entrance barriers to CrossFit is really high, especially if you want to do proper CrossFit. That's why it gets the worst point here. because it's really difficult to learn all these movements and you have to do all these Olympic lifts, so it's really difficult for beginners to get started. Although it's quite efficient training when it comes to burning calories, so you can burn everything between 500 to 700 calories per hour. When it comes to availability and cost, it again doesn't get the best point here, because at its best there are some CrossFit boxes around your place, but actually they are quite expensive to just go there and practice CrossFit. If we move on with strength benefits, they are very high. After all, CrossFit has a lot of compound movements that really build up your muscle. Now, when it comes to cardiovascular benefits, it's actually medium. You could also argue that it's probably high, but let's face it, if you're going to get started, you are not going to be able to do all the movements. So that's why I placed it at medium. Now, when it comes to low impact, that's where CrossFit really gets a low point, because remember, it's really advanced movements, and not only are they tough on your joints as the gym, but here the likelihood of you getting injured is super high. And I don't know about you guys, but I know a lot of friends of mine that are training CrossFit, it feels like they are injured every other day. So probably not the best exercise to do as an adult over the age of 40. Now let's move on with HIITs and home workouts. Now the entrance barrier to this one is quite low actually, because you just train with your body and you just do high intensity workouts. So it's quite easy to understand and quite easy to get into. When it comes to efficiency, it's quite efficient workout. You burn around 400 to 600 calories per hour. When it comes to availability, it's quite available. As I mentioned, you can do it at home, you can do it at the gym. And if you do it at home, it doesn't really cost you anything. There are a lot of YouTube exercises with your body muscles. Now, when it comes to strength benefits, it's quite high, because you are doing body weight exercises with home workouts, although it's not at the highest, because you are not lifting really any weight and the resistance isn't that high as, for example, going to a gym or doing a CrossFit workout. Now let's move on to cardiovascular benefits. Again, here is medium. You could again argue that it could be high if you are super advanced and you do it really hard, but let's be honest, as a beginner, you probably are not going to get the most cardio out of this workout. And last, we have low impact. Again, the same thing here, guys. It's quite tough on your joints because you do all these jumps, all these movements. It's going to be quite tough on your joints. Now let's move on to the next exercise that we have here, which is swimming. And swimming, the entrance barrier is medium, because even though you probably know how to swim, in order to do it as a workout, you need a little bit more technique. So it's going to take some time for you to understand and get into it before you can hold your breath properly and you can do all these different swimming styles. Now, when it comes to being an effective workout, swimming actually is one of the most effective workouts out there. It burns 600 to 800 calories per hour, and that's because you activate all your body muscles, or a big part of them. And this is how you know if a workout, by the way, is effective. If you activate a lot of muscles, then your body needs a lot of energy to activate these muscles, and that leads to you burning a lot of calories doing that exercise. Let's move on to the next criteria, which is availability and cost. Now, swimming, if you are not living in a country that is really warm and you can just jump out on a pond, on a lake, it's quite high, because you need to go to a nearby pool, or you need to invest on your own pool in order to be able to swim. So that's why it doesn't get the highest, that's why it doesn't get a really good point here, because let's face it, if you don't have a pool at home, then it's not that available. Now let's move on to strength benefits. Here I've put medium. Swimming actually trains your strength, but not at a significant level for me to put a high score on this one. And then on the cardiovascular benefits, swimming gets a really high point. As running, it's a cardiovascular exercise, so that's why it gets so high point there. Now, when it comes to low impact, swimming is actually really low impact. So it's a good exercise if you are old and you want to stay in shape. So that's about swimming. Now let's move on to the last one, the one that I saved you for the end, and the one that this event is called after. Now, I don't know if you guys have got a hint of what this event is going to all be about, but I'm going to disclose it really soon. Now, I'm going to talk about the one exercise. How does the one exercise compare itself to all these other popular workout methods? Now, let's start with entrance barrier. And the entrance barrier is quite low, because let's be honest, this exercise is not that complicated, and I'm sure that a lot of you guys have already done it. Maybe not with the perfect technique, but I'm sure that you have executed in the past. Now let's move on with efficiency. This workout is really efficient, so it's as efficient as swimming, because this workout activates 86% of your body muscles. And like I mentioned before, the more muscles you activate on a workout, the more calories you burn. When it comes to cost and availability, the one exercise gets again a high point because you can both perform it on a gym and at home. And that said, you also don't need a fancy gym to get a good workout out of the one exercise. You just need a gym that has this machine on it. So that's why it gets a quite high point there as well. Now, when we move on to strength benefits, like I mentioned before, this exercise activates 86% of your body muscles, and it's actually quite heavy when you do this workout, so it's perfect for building muscle. Now let's move on to cardiovascular benefits, and you guessed it, really high here as well, because this workout, after all, is a cardio workout, but it also has the benefit of being quite heavy, so you can also train your muscles. Now, the last thing that I wanted to go through before I reveal this one exercise is if it is low impact. And yes, this exercise is really, really low impact. In fact, it's one of the exercises out there that is the most low impact together with swimming. Now, have you guessed what the one exercise is? Well, it's the rowing machine. And this is the workout we're going to focus throughout this event.